Hellmaster EX. This award-winning system features the first single-engine joystick with digital electric steering and new autopilot capability. See Hellmaster EX in action at a Yamaha Outboard dealer or visit YamahaOutboards.com.
Dave Anderson here with the Fisherman magazine. It's December 5th. These are your headlines. Got pretty good concentration of striped bass out in western Long Island Sound. Hearing about some good lake trout fishing up in Wachusett Reservoir. Even some bluefin tuna out off of Southwest Ledge at Block Island. Most importantly though, tonight is the informative webinar being put on by the ASMFC, which will inform their decisions on striped bass for 2025. Stay tuned for all that and more on this week's New England Fishing Forecast.
The Fishing News is sponsored by these fine partners.
Before we begin, we've got a few news items for you guys. The first one, we're just going to jump right into this whole ASMFC thing. Tonight at 6 p.m., the ASMFC is going to hold an informative webinar. This is going to inform the public of all the different options that are on the table regarding the regulation of striped bass going into 2025. Now, I've seen some of the possibilities, and there's a lot of talk of targeting closures, which means there would be no striped bass fishing for a certain period of time during the fishing season. It's going to be hard to swallow for a lot of people, myself included. Some of these are as short as 25 days. Some of the other ones go out as far as 61 days. And there are many different, sort of little wrinkles in there as far as whether it affects commercial or whether it doesn't affect commercial, and a whole bunch of other little nuances. So very important that we all check out this webinar and then we all participate in the public comment period that's going to follow. It's going to be 5 days after this webinar tonight. We can submit our public comments and have them heard. And if one thing that I have seen over these last few years is that the public seems to have a bigger voice over these last few changes, and so that makes it extra important that we all participate in the the democratic process here and make sure our voices are heard. I'll put a link down below so you can watch the webinar and make sure you get those public comments in. Last thing, of course, is the giveaway, which is ongoing. We have seen not as many photos over the last couple of weeks. It's been colder, it's been windier, seasons are closing, boats are coming out of the water, but we are still going to give away that flat-glide needlefish. We're still going to give away some soft plastics from NLBN. It's a good prize pack, and it's definitely something that it's worth getting out there and doing some fishing. It's not that cold out, and send those pictures in. Doesn't matter if it's freshwater, saltwater, doesn't matter if it was caught in New England or if you went to Panama, I don't care. Take a good photo, well composed, send it in to me at danderson@thefisherman.com or text it to me at the number on the screen and just give me all the pertinent details like the angler name and where it was caught and all that stuff. We'll get you in the contest, we'll get you into the report, probably get you in the magazine, and who knows, maybe you'll win.
The season of gift giving is here. Why not share the gift of fishing that lasts all year long? A subscription to the Fisherman magazine is just that. 12 glossy print issues and 26 weekly digital issues delivered to your inbox. Plus, weekly reports and full access to the website, all for just $29.95. And you're automatically eligible for the Dream Boat Challenge with your chance to win a new Steigercraft powered by Yamaha. Visit thefisherman.com/subscribe for that ultimate gift.
Moving over to the fishing reports now. Not a lot of news coming out of Maine. Seems like most of the guys I know up there are deer hunting right now. A few guys chasing wild trout. There has been some news of some skim ice in some of the lower lying areas in the northern, say north central parts of Maine and New Hampshire. So we do have some hard water coming up, especially if the weather stays like it is. Crossing the border now into Massachusetts, let's check in with Kevin Hoang from Surfland Bait and Tackle.
Hey guys, Kevin from Surfland Bait and Tackle checking in. It's so depressing this time of the year. It's only 5 p.m. and it's already dark outside, right? Terrible. Saltwater wise, if you want to do some ground fishing on the party boats, I heard it's been a little slow when you can get out when the ocean is not as rough. And the bite's been tough. There's been a lot of big pollock if you do catch them. The haddock, from what I heard, wasn't as great. And then stripers, they're not around really, not that much, unless you want to go do some holdover fishing somewhere towards the harbor. You know, maybe you have a chance. And then there's that unicorn of a fish that usually shows up around this time of the year, but it's a unicorn. You know, if you go find some brackish water and try to find yourself a sea run, that's worth a shot. But it's tough because it's one of those types of fish that they're not around as much anymore. And then freshwater wise, same thing. Carp, trout, it's been good because of the cold front that we got. That cold water got them going and feeding pretty good on spoons, and then some spots on power bait and power eggs, and then largemouth bass, smallmouth bass, jerk baits. What's the other thing that they were using? Spoons, rooster tails, all those type of things. And then you got to remember too, a lot of the techniques that you use for like largemouth and smallmouth, you can use it for striped bass too. It's a good way to figure out how to get reaction strikes for like a predator fish, you know, with them holding on structure, and then you're casting a glide bait over into structure and getting it to glide, and then figuring out how to trigger their attack. And then you can bring that back into next season when you're striper fishing, and you do the same exact thing, and the striper reacts the same way. It's pretty cool when you start messing around with the techniques and how fresh water goes into salt and salt goes into fresh. It's awesome. It's one of those things that like you're always learning, right? So see you next time.
Now we'll jump down to Boston. We'll check in with Danny Parma from Fish Bucket Sport Fishing.
Thanks, Dave. Dan checking in with this week's report. December 1st, the tuna quota opened up. We had a chance to get offshore. We went out to Stellwagen Bank. We got out there, and it was just a little too choppy for us. We headed back in, closer inshore. We went over to Nahant and had some decent action. We were jigging up cod. We were getting small haddock, some good-sized whiting. We put the giant rods out and had a couple of poor beagles hit it. But nothing, no giants inshore. On the 2nd, we headed out to the bank. Weather was nicer. We had a giant eat a live mackerel right out of our hands. Fought that for about 40 minutes. Got it up to the boat. It was right on the cusp of maybe not a keeper, but kind of looking like it. And, when we were trying to, get a measurement, he broke the hook. So later on that day, we were heading in about 4 miles from where we were, and we stumbled upon a giant feed going on. There was birds dive bombing. There was, whales crashing. There was porpoises jumping out of the water, and there were tuna everywhere. We did throw down a couple of baits. One of our down rods got hit and just didn't commit to it, so we reset the bait, had it commit again, but just didn't get lucky that day. We did manage a couple of poor beagles as well, so there's plenty of poor beagles out there if you're going giant fishing. That's what I got for you. Also, on our way in, we were pulling up in Boston Harbor, and there was a small school of mackerel swimming on the top of the water. So there's still bait in the area. I haven't talked to many of the guys out there fishing, but you put some time in, you'll find some. That's what I got for you this week. Stay safe. I'll catch you on the next one.
Heading inland, we have been hearing some good reports again this week from Wachusett Reservoir. Seems like December has started off with a little bit of a bang. Seeing lots of solid-sized Lakers coming out of there, seeing some smallies coming out of there. I did hear one really nice fish, a 13-pounder. I was asked not to use the photo, but it is definitely a really nice fish. So looks like Wachusett would be a good place to check out in the coming weeks, and it's great that they've extended that season over these past few years. Moving down toward the coast now, saltwater stuff for the most part is over along the south shore, heading out toward the canal. But we are hearing really good trout fishing from off Cape and on Cape. And the bass fishing is held up, although slowing down a little bit now that things are getting colder and colder. But I do see a little warm up in the forecast, which is likely to kick these bass back into gear. So definitely want to keep an eye on that. This is a great time of year, believe it or not, to catch some really big largemouth. It's one of my favorite times to fish. So, don't neglect the largemouth. And if you want to just get the rod bent, definitely want to check out the trout fishing because, again, we've talked about this before, but stock trout, they have no instincts. And they're very easy to target. Something that's flashy, shiny, or something that has a bright color on it, like bright orange or bright pink. All these things are excellent ways to catch these trout. And the good thing about stock trout is you can target them any way you want. You can do it with the fly rod, you can do it with live bait, you can do it with jerk baits or Ned rigs, or go more conventional with tins and spinners. All these things are going to work. And Massachusetts does a phenomenal job stocking. So definitely check that out. Heading off Cape, really, I don't really have anybody out in the western part of Buzzards Bay fishing anymore. Jason Colby wrapped it up for the year, and I would guess you could still get some tog out there. You could probably hook into a codfish or two, but by and large, saltwater fishing is over. The only thing that I do know, and I forgot to mention it when we were back on the Cape, but there has been some mackerel in the East End. Some guys have been fishing for those with sabiki rigs, and there's been some guys fishing for max off the vineyard as well. And that's what I have for you guys in Massachusetts this week.
Now, until December 31st, Tsunami is giving away a Salt X waterproof backpack when you purchase a new Salt X2 reel. With its 19 seals and machined aluminum frame, the rugged Salt X2 can conquer any fishing condition you may face. Check out the QR code for all the details.
Thanks, Dave. Hey guys, fastest 3 minutes of fishing in the East Bay here, and I've got to tell you, things are just dwindling down just a little bit. It got cold fast, and things just started to slow down a little bit. And with the drought we have, there's still some really shallow water, and a lot of the local ponds here in Swansea, Somerset, and in Warren and Barrington. So I was thinking, the catching's been a little bit slow, but I'm thinking that these deeper pockets of water where these fish tend to go during the winter months, are holding the fish that me as a shore fisherman can't get to. Guys in the kayaks and the little paddle boats that are out in these little ponds that I fish normally are actually doing better than the guys that are fishing from shore right now. Just because they can get into those deeper pockets, they can drop straight down. Another issue that has been going on right now is skim ice, and that's the biggest fear of a shore fisherman that's fishing in fresh water, because we really can't do much with the skim ice, and it's been stretching out probably about 35-40 feet into the pond from the shore. Obviously the shallowest waters are freezing first. So it makes it a little more difficult just for us guys to fish from shore with these nights that are dropping into the 20s. So it puts a damper on fishing quite a bit. But some of the water is warm enough still in some of the ponds. And if you get a little bit of wind, you won't get that skim ice. That's what I'm hoping for the upcoming weekend. It doesn't look too bad. I am going to get out there and do some crappie fishing, which has been really good, really hot, and some of these local ponds here. Getting into the salt water for the East Bay, things are pretty much done here with striped bass, other than your normal winter river haunts, the Providence River, the Seekonk River, and one other place that I work out in southeastern Massachusetts, and the Cushit River in New Bedford has been actually pretty good. I saw a couple guys out there in a john boat fishing, and they were catching striped bass. Not big, but they were small. I watched them for about an hour, and along with that, I was watching the bald eagle fly around too. So there's definitely fish, and there's definitely something for those eagles to forage on in that Acushnet River, which has recently been cleaned up of a lot of the PCBs from the Army Corps of Engineers. So that river system is gaining a lot of popularity now, and it definitely holds a lot of pogies. It has a heron run all the way up towards the Acushnet line there, and it's a good prospect for the upcoming years with what the Army Corps has done to clean up that river system. They still are doing some dredging further out towards the dike in New Bedford, but props to them, and they're making our waterways a lot cleaner. So that's all I got for you this week. I know it's a little slow, but hoping the freshwater scene picks up just a little bit more, and we'll get back to you guys next week. Tight lines, guys.
Still hearing good reports of black fishing in Rhode Island waters. A lot of these fish are still fairly shallow, even as shallow as 30 feet. Seems like a lot more of the better fishing's happening in 50 to 80 feet, but you can find keepers in 30 feet of water still, which is kind of cool. There's some codfish mixing in. There's been some black sea bass mixing in. There's even been some scup mixing in at times. The further out you get more toward Block Island, the better the fishing seems to get and the stronger the mix seems to be. But there are still tog, up along the shores of Newport and Narragansett and places like that. So you can check that out. Striped bass fishing up inside the bay is definitely slowing down. I heard of some fish showing up in the Bristol area. I heard of some fish kind of hanging out in the Providence area. But by and large, striper fishing has slowed way down inside Narragansett Bay. And I think, what doesn't trickle out over these next couple of weeks is going to hold over somewhere. So you may want to start poking around in your holdover spots if you want to get in on some of that action. Out around Block Island, as I already mentioned, we've been seeing some good togging, some good bottom fishing for various species, but the thing that's most interesting, excuse me, is the bluefin tuna have been showing up with fair regularity out around Southwest Ledge. I've heard of fish from 30 pounds up to 150 pounds. This is the time of year when, you want to make sure you're in a very seaworthy boat. The weather can change on the drop of a dime, and you don't want to mess around with that. But if it's something you want to get in on, those fish are out there, and they have been reportedly very finicky. But there are guys out there getting it done, and they are catching some fish. Up along the South County beaches, there's striped bass, but very few, and even fewer guys fishing for them at this point. I talked to Harrison over at Watch Hill Outfitters. He said that he did see a good blitz going off, about 3 casts out from the beach. But there was nobody fishing, and those fish never came in tight. But there's still some migrating stripers moving through the area. More of the fishing that's happening in that region or that part of the state is guys black fishing or cod fishing, and most of them are guys that are about to pull their boat, and they just go buy a bucket of crabs and make that last run to burn down the gas before they put it up on stilts for the winter. But there's still fish out there to be caught, just not as many guys again fishing for them. So we're getting to that point in the season where there are more fish than there are fishermen. So if you want to do that, you can definitely get out there and catch some tog. And then on the freshwater side of things, we're still benefiting from those Veterans Day stockings throughout Rhode Island. We're seeing great results from trout fishermen all over the state. And for a little bit more on that, let's check in with Jeff Sullivan. He's got some tips.
What's up, Dave? What's going on, guys? Jeff back with a weekly video. So I'm going to talk to you guys about jigging spoons for cold water fish, or cold fish, or aka trout. But let's just be honest, spoons catch everything, no matter what time of year. They're just one of those things I gravitate towards the winter. They're a great cold water option. They're finessey. You can fish them. You can power fish them. They come in all different shapes, sizes, and colors. The Cleo spoon's been catching fish for centuries, since the beginning of time, and I still gravitate towards Cleos. I have a huge box full of them. I keep them around all the time because you never know when a spoon bite's going to happen. And let's be honest, spoon bites are awesome. If you saltwater guys are familiar with spoon bites, you know how good it feels with striped bass on the other end of a spoon. Then you'll know this. It's fun, man. They really crush them, and you can fish. You can fish 50 feet of water and cover every single 50 feet of that water column. You can hop it off bottom, really entice fish that are stuck on the bottom and they won't come up for whatever reason. You could slow roll them. You can just there's just so many ways to fish them. It's overwhelming. But with that being said, always switch the hardware too, by the way. Always switch the hardware. Make sure you get stronger hardware on there, because trout will do a number on your hooks if you're not careful. But yeah, this time of year, Dave, I like to run natural baits. I'm hunting fish that are eating natural forage baits, and they are crushing them. The other day I had 4 fish on the bottom in the same exact spot, which tells me they're stacked there, and they wanted that gold Cleo. So hey, I go out tomorrow and they probably want silver. It's just how it goes, but that's why you bring your array of colors. Like I have copper here, this is gold, I have fire tiger or yellow perch, and then your classic blue silver. Just don't skimp on spoons. Just bring a few. Bring like 4 or 5, and just have at it. But yeah, I'm on a jig bite, and it's pretty fun. You guys should pick up a spoon. If you had never fished a spoon before and you're just starting to get into it, do it, because you can fish them through the ice too. They're ice fish friendly, and yeah, they're deadly lure. Oh, and one more thing, make sure you get a nice rod for it. I have the rod over here. It's a 7-foot, 1/4 to 1 ounce, and make sure it's a medium, a 6.6 or a 7-foot, and a 2500 size or a 3K would be okay, to pick up line. You want to pick up that line because sometimes you'll get hit on the fall. Like when this falling, you'll still have slack in your line, so you need to reel it quick to get that slack out. And I had to get off the 1000 trend because I was not picking up enough line with it. But yeah, that's what I've been doing, Dave, and I'll catch you guys next week.
Moving over into Connecticut now, saltwater fishing is pretty much wrapped up for most people. Once blackfish season closes, most of the boats get yanked, and we just don't see nearly as many guys participating. There are some striped bass kind of holed up outside of the rivers, the Thames River and the Connecticut River, and others to the west. Most of the fish in the eastern half of the state are on the smaller side, and we are hearing about some shore guys getting in on that. Getting up closer to the Connecticut River, you have more opportunity for some better fishing there. We have a lot of little holdover spots in the tributaries and coves up there. For a little bit more on that, let's check in now with Mike Roy from Reelcast Charters.
Hey, what's up, everybody? We are done fishing for the season. However, there's still striper action for people that want to go out and target them. They are moving into their winter holding areas, so you can expect to catch them on soft plastics right now. What I'm doing is winterizing the boat. So a few things is adding fuel stabilizer. I am draining the lower unit lube right there and refilling it. Also did an oil change, waxed the boat and motor, clean it obviously. It'll get covered, and hit all the grease fittings with grease, spray the engine block down with WD-40. Those are a few things you can do to get your boat put away for the season. All right, that's all I have for you this week.
Now let's head up the river and we'll check in with Rowan Lytle.
Hey everybody, so definitely easing into winter here from the looks of it. The weekend weather is going to be quite cold, and I anticipate a lot of the backwaters of the river getting at least some skim ice. A lot of them already have on some of the colder nights, and that means some of those slack water spots might not be possible to fish, which is a bit of a bummer. Always kind of hate this transitional season when there's not enough ice to actually ice fish, but too much to get into those slack spots that the panfish and a lot of the bass and pike are really favoring. Of course, as I mentioned last week, with the cooler water temperatures, if you do want to get out for some pike, dead baits and live baits are going to probably be a little bit favored over artificial lures in the next few weeks. Of course, there are going to be some warm spells and the fish will get more active during those, but while the water is at its cooler temperatures, especially when you're seeing a lot of skim ice in places, if you just want success, you're better off going with bait than lures. Other than that, obviously, we will see if we actually get a real proper winter here and some good ice fishing. I'm really hoping we do. I enjoy that pan fishing through the ice on the coves and backwaters of the river, and I'd really like to actually get a good long opportunity at that this year. Who knows if that'll actually happen or not. but we shall see. It's good to see some cooler weather right now, though. Hopefully bodes well for a nice season.
I checked in with Matt Stone today, but he is away on vacation, so we don't have a report from them. One thing I do want to talk about, though, is that the recent rains have brought up the flows in a lot of the more popular trout rivers, and we're starting to see much better fishing results in some of those rivers right now. And for a little bit more on that, we're going to welcome back one of our field correspondents from the last few years. This is Derek Kirkpatrick with Connecticut Fish Guides. Here he is.
Hey, Dave. Derek and Tori Collins here, coming from you at Upcountry Sport Fishing from the Farmington River. Just want to give you a brief river report on what's going on. Tori, what's the flow currently?
220 CFS. We got about roughly 180 from the dam. They bumped it up 50 CFS yesterday. And then we got about 40 coming in from the Still River for a total of 220 from there down, which would include the permanent catch and release section.
So not a bad flow. It's really good for dry fly fishing, and right now we do have dry fly opportunities both early and in the evenings. Winter, summer caddis are probably going to be your main bug. The blueing olives, I think, have probably mostly flushed out by now, and we'll also see some midges mixed in. But your winter summers are early morning typically, so as soon as the sun gets on the water or just before. So your early morning, you get a good 3-hour session and possibly of dry fly on the right days. Your lower wind mornings are going to be better for that. And then in the latter part of the day, you can have good nymphing with bugs and dry fly on some days. But right now we're pretty much into post-spawn. So a lot of these fish are kind of licking their wounds, going to be in some softer water as the water gets colder.
Yeah, spawning beats the fish up.
Yeah, it beats them up pretty good. So it's important to handle the fish with care still, especially some of the larger adult fish. Again, they're still stressed from spawn.
On the upside, post spawn fish are looking to put some weight back on because spawning they use up a lot of energy and they lose weight. So
right. So the weather. Extended weather forecast looks good. It looks consistent. We have some rain coming, which is good. We do need water. But as soon as we get a real cold front coming through, I usually find that that's going to trigger that feed that Tori's talking about with those post-spawn fish. So it's important to be able to adjust on the day that you're fishing. You know, if you see bugs, fish bugs, but don't underestimate throwing meat like jig patterns and stuff like that. Anything else?
Junk flies, mops, squirmies,
yep.
Mini mops.
Yeah.
I typically do well on eggs right through the winter.
Yeah.
I mean, it varies from day to day. If you got an egg on, have a lot of small nymphs this time of year, 18s, 20, 22s, but it could still be worth throwing on a big stone. Sometimes a size 8 or 10 stone gets a fish to move that wouldn't move for a size 20 nymph. And I've historically done well in December on like olive caddis larvae and like a 14 or a 16 also.
Yep. Yeah, your immature Hendricksons will start showing up as well. So those are the ephemerellas, and they're typically an 18.5 to a 16. Usually 18.5 probably this time of year, but those do start to get active, especially on your sun spike days. Around 9 a.m., 10 a.m. when that sun really starts spiking, heating up the water. So entomology-wise, if you're headed up to the river, certainly stop in upcountry, talk to Grady or Tori or Joey and ask them about flies. But I think for this week, that's our report, and looking forward to giving you reports for the rest of the winter. Back to you, Dave.
And heading out into the Western Sound, the main thing that I'm hearing about out there is that we've seen sort of a surprise fall run resurgence out there. So you're seeing some blitzes along the beaches, you're seeing some fish holing up in some of the harbors and moving up into some of the rivers, including the Housatonic. And the fishing has really kind of popped off in that area. So guys are doing best up in the Hoosie for sure. They're seeing some blitz action in the daytime. They're definitely seeing the typical, go out with the paddle tails and, whale away on some of those small to medium striped bass. Also seeing some bigger fish after dark, which is what we typically expect to see at this time of the year. December is one of the best times of the year to fish in the Housatonic. And for a little bit more on that, let's check in now with Max Finch from Fisherman's World.
Hey everyone, Max here from Fisherman's World with another local fishing report. This past week was Thanksgiving. We had some windy days, some rain. The last week of blackfish, we saw some blackfish in that 5 to 7 pound class. It was good all the way up until it ended. Still, guys, fishing shallow and deep, so that was amazing. It was a great blackfish year. The sea bass bite is actually still going. Anglers that have their boats still in or are now trailering them, you can definitely still get on some knothead sea bass bites. South of the island still been really good on our deeper water wrecks, I would say 60 to 80 foot, and these fish are moving in shallower too. We usually see them, sometimes even 15 to 10 foot this time of year. Guys that are usually throwing like SPs or smaller bucktails around the islands for stripers will pick up some knothead sea bass. So that's cool. Middle ground still holding a good bite with sea bass and porgies. And the porgies in our area, now we're seeing them in like that 30 to 50. I'm talking to a couple guys that are still going for them. They're bringing a lot of clams from like 4 or 5 logs. That definitely helps keep them at your boat. And when you get them there, you can just bang them up. The Housatonic is starting to really get going now. This past week, we saw a lot of fish push in, and we'll just see more and more and more. They're starting to fill in throughout too. So the mouth is still really good. The lower part, below the Merritt Bridge, and then above the Merritt Bridge is starting to see some fish too. Remember, when you're fishing above the Merritt Bridge, you do need a Connecticut freshwater license. Thanks and good luck.
And that's what I have for you guys in the reports this week. Hopefully it's going to inspire you to get out there and brave the cold. Still got some good fishing going on. And last thing, of course, I just want to remind you guys that if you're looking for a great holiday gift, you can subscribe to the magazine or buy a gift subscription to the magazine. And you can head over to our website at thefisherman.com and check out all the apparel we have there. That little combination would make a great gift for your dad or your grandfather or your uncle or anybody who loves to fish. The last thing I'll say, just make sure you check out our website. We've got a full gamut of what we offer there, all the fishing covered from Delaware up to Maine, and all angling disciplines covered as well. If you check all that out and you're still not interested, which would be hard to believe, at the very least, give us a like and subscribe here on YouTube and hit that little bell thing right there so we get a notification every time we post something new. I appreciate you guys for watching, and we'll see you next week.